Hey everyone, Noah Frank here with the Driver's Market. Today we are going to be answering a couple of questions that I get from time to time, which is what's the status of the ImportLock? When can I get one? Where can I get one? What's taking you so long to redesign it? And we are going to address all of that right now. For starters, to understand what the ImportLock is, you need to understand the problem that it's trying to fix. The ImportLock is a mechanical actuator to replace the air actuators and the electric actuators on the Toyota front ADD differentials. Now, don't get that confused. It's not a locker. It's an actuator for ADD front differentials. Right now, we are in the process of designing the ImportLock IL-01 V2 and the IL-02. So that's our V2 of the original ImportLock, and then the second model. One of them, the IL-01, replaces the airbox, and the other one, the IL-02, replaces the electric box. The IL-02 is an IL-01 with extra components, and we're going to talk about that here in a second and some of the struggles that we've worked through in that design. But realistically, the thing that I want to get across to you today is our design process has changed a lot over the last couple months. Tariffs affected our ability to get aluminum. Our machine cost has changed significantly just because of the price of tooling and our own tooling. The design software that we are using is constantly needing updates, and none of these are excuses, but I wanted to let you know that there are reasons that these delays have occurred. Now, one more reason that a delay has occurred is that I want the ImportLock to be a universal kit. Now, that means a couple of things. The first thing that means is the mounting on the differential needs to be perfect right out of the box. And part of the reason that has taken a little while to design is because Toyota did not stick with one ADD front differential. The Tundras and Sequoias use an ADD front diff that has the actuator on the back of the diff. The Tacomas, 4Runners, and the Hilux pickups have an ADD on the front of the diff. Some of the Tacomas have them on the rear. Some of the 4Runners have them on the rear. So suffice it to say, we've gone through a couple of design changes, and I believe we've finally come up with the best of all worlds in order to get the mounting snug as a bug right out of the box. Throw some RTV or FIPG on there and you will get a leak-free mating surface every time. So that's the first part. The second part has been, because we are switching from an air or an electric box actuator to this mechanical actuator, we need a mechanical system in order to actually do the actuation. On the ImportLock IL-01 V1, the first version of ImportLock 01, we used a braided steel wire actuator, and we found that there was enough stretch in that wire to occasionally cause the actuator to not engage with the locking mechanism. And that's obviously a problem that goes against everything that we stand for. So we have redesigned this actuator to be used with a steel cable instead. So it's not braided wire, it's just a one-piece cable. We are sourcing cables, and we have tested a couple of different ones. The final outlier that we're working on is the mounting inside the cab. We got quite a bit of pushback on the original ImportLock for how we mounted the actual actuator portion. People don't like drilling through their plastics. People don't like the mounting on the four-wheel drive shift knobs, and I totally understand all of that. We've listened to you, and we are working on a bracket that goes underneath your dash, so that way you can reach down and actuate it with your right hand, and it will not infringe upon your ability to push in the accelerator pedal. You won't hit it with your knee. We're keeping it out of the eye line, so a child can't reach down and grab it, a pet can't accidentally step on it. And so all of these things come together to say we're triple checking our work, we're redesigning a product better than ever. I want you to understand I'm designing this to go on my own vehicles. I trust the products that we're designing. And so I'm going to spin the camera around. I'm going to show you IL-01 V1. I'm going to show you the 3D prints that I have for some of the parts for V2. And then we're going to throw up the diagrams, some of the schematics for what V2 is actually going to look like. And we're going to talk through some of the cool design features. So again, I'm going to spin the camera around and I'll meet you in the bed of the truck. Okay, I am behind the camera now. We are taking a look at this is a 1993 Toyota 4Runner differential. Now, this is going to be very similar for all of the diffs that we're talking about. Like I said before, this piece here is sometimes rotated to the rear, and so this actuator is on the back side. But everything that I'm talking about here is in generalities because we are no longer producing the IL-01, which is seen here. This is more to educate and to talk about what the ImportLock actually is and to show it in action. Now, again, to understand the ImportLock, you must first understand your differential. This is a split shaft front differential. You can see here upside down that it says ADD, and that stands for automatic disconnecting differential. And what that means is you have a shaft in here that is split with a slip ring inside, and when I rotate this side of the wheel, you can see that that side does not rotate. So this is where your CV axles would connect. If you have manual hubs, you will not be facing this problem because you don't have a split shaft front differential, you have a solid shaft front differential, and so you do this actuation at your hubs. Split shaft ADD front differentials do this actuation here at the actuator box. Now, these boxes have several things that are make up their construction. The first part is internally, you have a shift fork, you have a slip ring inside that's mounted on the differential shafts themselves. You have this outer housing which houses the four-wheel drive indicator light, and then on a traditional diff like this one would have had an air box right here. On the newer diffs they have an electric box. Again, we've replaced that with a mechanical box, and I'm going to show you now what that looks like when it's engaged. So the shift fork right now is in this position. We're going to push it here and engage the four-wheel drive. So this shaft right here that I can show you is the rear part. This is what actuates forward and back, and that is what locks your two axle shafts together. Now I have to lift this slightly to show, but you can see there, the other side is now rotating. Now, there's a spring that we've designed built into here as a two-wheel drive safety. So if I let it go, it will always default you to two-wheel drive. On the front, you can see that there is a clevis, and out of this clevis, we used to have that braided cable like I was talking about. So there's a clevis with a through bolt, and it would actuate this forward and back. If for some reason that braided cable failed, it would always default you back into two-wheel drive, which your factory differential cannot do on its own, and your factory ADD box will not do. If you have any sort of failure in your factory ADD box, this could be anywhere in the cycle of shifting, and you could destroy those shafts inside. So again, that was our original fail-safe. The other fail-safe that we built in is, let's say you're somewhere where you need four-wheel drive. Well, we had this pin that you could stick in there and lock yourself into the four-wheel drive position if your shift cable failed or your shift wire failed. You pull that pin out, and then you're defaulted back into the two-wheel drive position. This, again, is a very, very solid system, and I ran this on my own 4Runner, my 1992, and I never had an issue with it. However, we did have to adjust the wire several times for stretch, and this system would not have worked on the electric box. And I'm going to show you how we've changed the design a little bit. Let me step up to the front and grab my props. Okay, so a moment ago I said that this would not work with the electric actuators, that this one is set up for an air box, and that is correct. Now, this housing here and the shift fork inside are both ASIN products. ASIN does not make this particular housing anymore. We cannot source these from Japan anymore. And so if you have an air, which this particular housing would have come on these air actuated differentials. If you have one of these, you will reuse your housing, you will reuse your shift fork, and then we will provide to you an ImportLock IL-01 V2. So again, this is a V1, but your V2 will bolt on to the factory housing and will utilize your factory shift fork. You'll get the new ImportLock with a new stainless steel shift rail. Of course, your ImportLock will be 6061 T6, and we have toolpath that, and I'm going to throw the design up for that right now. And you can see that this is a completely different look. It's smaller, it's stronger. Your ability to lock it is now going to be a thumb nut instead of the locking pin. We had some pushback on the pin not being able to go through the actuator when there is dirt and grime in the way. And so your IL-01 V2 will replace the V1, and it will go again on this factory ASIN housing with your factory ASIN shift fork. Now, if you have the electric actuator, which can be on the front or the back of the diff, you're going to need a new housing, and that is where this comes in. So this is our new design of the OG housing for the airbox with a couple of differences. Now, the airbox is actually a closer to the axle shaft housing. It's a shorter housing. And the reason is because this differential here just needs a little bit of space for the four-wheel drive indicator light switch. Whereas if it's on the back, you actually have a larger gap. And so that is where this comes into play. So this spaces the four-wheel drive indicator light further away from the housing. And in doing so, you're not going to be able to use your factory shift fork. So we have designed, modeled after the original but slightly longer, a new shift fork. And so these two things together, plus an ImportLock IL-01 V2, will make the IL-02 kit. So your IL-02 kit comes with an IL-01 plus a new housing and a new shift fork, both of which will be 6061 T6. Now, this new housing, it is of course a little bit different in design, and that's because it's spaced, it's taller. We have the indicator light coming out at a 90-degree angle instead of at this lower angle where we've noticed leaking in the past. And all of that is in order to make this as strong as possible. So this particular design passed all of our structural integrity tests, and I'm going to be running this design on my own vehicle, and this is the more robust version of that box system. Now, if you have one of these ASIN cast housings, these are perfectly reasonable to use, but again, these only work on the airbox. These do not work on the electric shift because of the spacing issue. So this is solving the spacing issue, the structural integrity issue, and it allows you to utilize an IL-01 V2. So we have one design working for two different diffs with a couple of extras for the O2. Let's talk about shift cables for a second. So in my hand here is an example of a locking shift cable that we were using for prototyping, and you can see over at this end, it is a solid piece of spring steel. It is not woven. It is not a rope design. It is a solid single piece, and you have benefits and you have drawbacks for that. The drawback is you can see the bend here. That is actually the tightest bend that I can get without binding. But the benefit is that the push and pull of this are the same strength level. So on the previous ImportLock, the push and pull were not equal. The pull was much better, the push was much softer, and that again was causing that stretching problem that we talked about. This locking throttle cable is able to be pulled out, locked, pushed back in, so it's just a press and pull. Now, of course, I'm holding it with one hand and this is binding, of course, just because of the way that I have it twisted up down here, but this will go underneath your dashboard, so you'll have to drill a hole through the firewall, but it will be a black design with either a black twist and a red knob or a black twist and a black knob, and it will stay up underneath your dashboard out of the way. If you would like to actuate, this is going to flick like crazy when I open it up. Okay, if you would like to actuate, you simply push and pull, and then it locks in place, and you have fine-tuning adjustments, so you do not need to keep retensioning like we had on previous models. And so this throw right here, you can see, if I can get it all in frame, there you go, that's your actuation. So we've gone with this cable design as opposed to the braided design in order to avoid the stretching and for the strength. But because of that, we have to pick a cable design that works for the front and rear mounting of the actuators, and also will be short enough in the locking component to stay underneath the dashboard out of the way. So prototyping is continuing at a steady pace. We are working through all of the issues, and I wanted to give everybody this update so that you know we are not slacking off. We are well in the design phase, and if these renders have given you anything to think about, it's that we are always improving our products. We listen to what our consumers say. I'm a consumer myself. Again, I've designed these products for my own vehicles. I was just told that these were something that other people would be interested in, and so that is how the driver's market came to be. That's how TDM came to be, is I listened to what you all said and we came up with a better product together. So thank you for watching. This has been your ImportLock update. And again, this is an ImportLock IL-01 V1, and I'm gonna throw up the renders for IL-02 and IL-01 V2 right now. And I look forward to your comments and questions and concerns and anything else that you may have. Hit us up on our Instagram. We have a TikTok now, which I will link. We have a Facebook page. I think we have a LinkedIn. My media manager is awesome. He's going to be adding all the links to everything and cutting up and designing this video however he wants. Shout out Tyler. Other than that, you can find us again on our Instagram, and feel free to send us an email. We have submissions through our website. So thanks again, and I will be interacting with everybody in the comments.